You can use our new scanner
Right.
to scan in a check
Yes.
and email it, and that
Right.
saves going to the bank.
Well, I don't even know that. The scanner will do a transmission, hopefully a picture transmission of the check, so we don't need to have a copy of it.
Oh, if we have that kind of a scanner.
Yeah, it has to be compatible.
Right.
Right.
And so Sarah is one of my teammates that focuses on retail clients, and all of you are Sarah's prospects.
Okay.
Well, some of us are already in her bank.
Right, right.
Oh,
Those of you that aren't, I should
okay.
say.
Yeah.
What are you giving on CDs?
Well, Dan had asked me that question, and
Because Arthur asked me to ask.
We have a
Doc's
lot
really
of,
the one who wants
we
to
have a
know.
lot of money in the bank that's not earning
so
anything.
here are sort of the thoughts I had on CDs, and remember, I'm talking across the board for many municipal clients. Right now, we have something called the Now account. And now what happens for most municipal clients that deposit more than $250,000 into a checking account, those accounts are actually required to be collateralized. In Maryland, it's 102% of the deposit amount is collateralized with the Federal Reserve. So for those types of accounts, we offer what's called a municipal Now account that pays 4 basis points. Now, the LGIP pays 7 basis points the last time I looked. And my recommendation would be, if we open an account, my understanding is that we would open a commercial checking account that would be analyzed. So the village would receive 20 basis points earnings credit rate for the amount that's on deposit in the account. And the purpose of that earnings credit rate is to offset any type of service charges. So, you know, when someone says that we're providing free banking, what they're really doing is using your deposit and your balances of the deposit to offset any service charges. No for-profit business offers things for free. So 20 basis points is the earnings credit rate. And so I think that the decision that the village has to make is, does it want to, and we can determine this, what is the target balance to maintain in the primary checking account, commercial account, in order to cover service charges, versus how much over that can you move to the Maryland LGIP, since they're paying 7 basis points, and that's where most municipal governments have their money. Now, I was going to ask Sarah if, for example, the village has less than $250,000 on deposit, then those deposits do not need to be collateralized. They're FDIC insured, and there may be a retail banking product that may be more appropriate. Is there one that pays more than, say, 4 or 7 basis points?
What about CDs?
You know, even with CDs the investment environment is really horrible right now.
I'm
It
looking
really
for to
is.
get beyond that,
And
beyond a significant,
Well-
beyond
well-
a zero there.
well, here's the thing.
4 bips is pretty
This
much
is.
zero.
I'll throw
Yeah,
some
yeah.
reality on the conversation. I have a client, it's a federal government client, that has $125 million on deposit in a Now account that's paying 4 basis points.
0.04.
4%.
Yeah, that's
I
the
want to get rid of
reality.
that leading zero.
So
Well, I think the Fed has
CDs,
to raise rates for that, no?
you know, CDs are something to look at, and my suggestion there is that if you intend to maintain, CD would be considered a public deposit. So if you combine a CD with the amount of money that's on deposit, if it's over $250,000, then any excess amount in the CD would have to be treated as a public funds CD, and it would pay very little.
It needs to be collateralized.
And it would, because it would have to be collateralized. I mean, the bank for Maryland, you know, we have our own internal cost structure, but to collateralize a public funds account, it costs us 40 basis points. You know, because it's a trust account maintained at the Federal Reserve in Boston. It's 102% of eligible securities that are pledged against the public deposit account and so on. So what you're doing is you're playing, you know, public deposit account against something that Sarah can offer, for example, for investment purposes. Does that make sense?
Business money markets, can we offer them a business money?
We have to be
market?
100% insured,
Okay.
yeah.
You can offer them a business money market as long as the amount on deposit is less than 250.
250,000.
If it's over 250,000, and anything over 250,000 that's a deposit product is
Has to be
required to be
collateralized.
collateralized by the Maryland Public Depository Code.
And we can't do it in one bank, we have some CDs spread around.
Yeah.
We can diversify.
Yeah.
So
But across
Okay.
different banks, you're saying?
Hmm?
If we wanted to diversify, it would have to be across different banks.
Different banks, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
we have a couple right now. I was just looking for other opportunities. Steve Schmall's gonna ask, how come we're not making anything of interest?
Well, he always, yes. Nobody else.
Well, we can tell them about the 4 bips that we can make.
Right, yeah.
Woohoo!
I'm trying to fill up that zero. Okay,
Well,
that's useful to know, I forgot, you're re-educating me.
So Dan is our man who is really responsible for helping us get to you. And he's the one who can compare all of the charges against what we've been paying.
Yep.
And this is a good deal.
Yeah, I actually think that the account that Denise had sent me over the terms for is different than the one you described. I think the one that she sent over says that if we are below a certain number of transactions, there are not fees associated with the account. So it's not an interest-bearing account. And I didn't print those. I did not print those fees out, but I don't think that there is a minimum balance. There's a number of transactions, and based on the information I gave to SunTrust, the account that they recommend keeps us below that. So I'm not anticipating any fees if I read it correctly.
So how many transactions do we have a month?
We probably only have, maybe 2 or 3 deposits that we actually take to the bank, and then we
Right.
have a handful of electronic deposits from the county or the state,
Right.
and then we process maximum maybe 30 checks a month.
And we can reduce some of that when we get on your credit card, and we can put a bunch more stuff there versus having to do.
Yeah, so that keeps us below the limits that we're under the account that they're looking to, that they recommend us setting up. So, so then we would just continue to either shop for CDs outside of it, outside of SunTrust, and stick with the MLGIP.
And we're going to deal with Sarah, so that if there is any issue, any questions, we go to Sarah?
Well,
Or do we go to you?
Well, let me get into the presentation a little bit. I don't know how familiar you are with SunTrust, but on page 5, it shows our banking network in the various states. On page 7, I started documenting our service organization. And this is only sort of a partial organization chart. And basically the way this thing works is that I'm at the top of the organization chart for service quality. And then I have Carol Tregeser, who's my assistant. And Carol has 5 commercial relationship specialists reporting to her, 5. And that's all they do is service commercial relationship accounts. Now, Sarah has, her branch people are responsible for retail clients primarily. And she really let's see, how do I say this? She probably can't devote the amount of time that our relationship team, our 5 people,
Right.
can devote in servicing and ensuring good service quality and so on. So what happens is, Carol happens to be out of the office because she broke her wrist, and D. Owens is filling in for Carol. Now we have Denise Garrett, who Dan was working with, who is a backup for D, and then we have Verlisa, we have Cynthia McCoy. So we have a staff, and we triage the staff when customer service problems come in. And what happens is that the treasurer, for example, Dan, if he identifies a problem or he requires, let's say, additional checks or something along those lines, or specifications for checks or deposit slips or anything having to do with banking, then Dan would typically contact one of the commercial relationship specialists, and they would run with it unless there was a problem, and they keep me in the loop. Unless they couldn't solve the problem, and then they get me involved, and let's say that the bank overcharged for something, and we need to waive the charge, then they would get me involved and say, will you please waive this because of whatever the justification for it is. Our department can do everything that Sarah can do in her branch,
Right.
and more.
Right.
And we're set up to handle commercial clients like yourselves. So in the organization, I talked a little bit about the customer service organization chart, but the way that the SunTrust model works is that the focal point is myself, what they refer to as the commercial relationship manager. And he has a team of, I've got 50 people that I can rely on for various things. We have an endowment and foundation area that manages money. We have a capital markets desk that does bond underwriting and so on. I work with our regional credit executives that underwrite municipal credit, tax exempt credit. I work with Michelle Brown, who's the designated treasury management sales officer that I work with, and Michelle has an entire team of product specialists supporting her. So we take a team approach. The team keeps everyone informed that's within the team, and some of the things that the team does is they'll meet with the client on a scheduled basis. So we have some clients, for example, that would like to meet with select team members on a quarterly basis. Other clients are happy to see us once every 6 months or once a year. It all depends on what the client's preference is and how much time and what their needs are and so on and so forth. But one of the distinguishing characteristics, I think, of SunTrust, having been there for 28 years, is the good service quality. We get measured by it. We have an independent third-party company that calls clients, like in this case, we'll have Dan as one of the key people, unless you all decide otherwise.
Actually, just to clarify things, I'm the bookkeeper here.
Okay.
Tori's the village manager, and Katya's treasurer.
She's our treasurer.
So it's a little different here. I mean, he's used to the other towns I work for. I am the point contact for everything.
So what we
and
would do
signature
then
and everything,
is
so.
we would designate Tori as the key individual, and so the survey team would contact Tori, and then not only do I get evaluated on my performance and how satisfied the client is, but the bank also gets evaluated and how satisfied the client is with the bank. And some of the other things that we do that's in the commercial realm is we have a library of probably 100 reports, and what I've done is selected those specific reports in the library that that the client might be interested in. For example, how the economy is doing, housing starts, or where interest rates are heading, and so on. And so we send out automatic email notification reports. In this case, I guess we would do it to send it to Tori.
Right.
To keep the client informed and, sort of up to date on what's happening in the economy. So that's a little bit, maybe
Have to
too.
you as treasurer when I get that too?
I get that at work all the time anyway.
You're set.
Yeah, I'm set.
And I can't remember whether it was you or Richard that mentioned Sun Trust when we started out the process as far as, someone to go to for banking. And, I recommended Sun Trust. And just to, kind of reiterate or confirm what Richard has said, I mean, any of these people on here, I've got their direct number. So it's not like Tori trying to get in touch with United and getting the runaround as to who I'm going to talk to get
Right.
something done.
Right.
I called Carol, I called Dee, I called Cynthia, I got their direct number and,
And Tori will have those
yeah,
too.
like for the
And-
signature cards, we said we wanted a checking account, credit card. By the end of the day, I had all the forms I needed.
Right.
Here, fill them out, send them back.
Let me, here's a detailed operational question. On this check scanner,
What page you on?
this is 14. I'm wondering, would we do, if we got a check-in on, for a permit, would we scan that in and send it to the bank, or would we send it to you?
We would do it here.
We would do it here.
Yep.
And, okay, so we don't have to put things in the mail and, no, right now, when we get checks in, we deposit from the office here, we don't send it to you, it could be deposited.
Correct.
Right, okay.
I
We
think-
don't
Yeah.
electronically deposit. My understanding is that they
They
used to
go
be a
to the
trip to the
bank.
bank.
Yeah,
Yeah, but this could be done if the scanner were up to it. I'm not sure whether it is.
and I think there are
Yeah.
fees for the
Just gotta
scanner
do
and
it.
things like that too, so if you're only depositing 3 checks, you might wanna weigh that against costs.
Oh.
I mean,
Well, there
It's
are,
very convenient to just go down the street here.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you compare the cost of taking your time to go to the branch, and
Right.
some people get so into the details of the operation that they actually evaluate the risk of getting in a car accident.
Yeah, or
If they have-
getting robbed on the way.
Or getting
something,
robbed
if
on the
somebody
way.
knows you're carrying checks.
So, there's
Yeah.
all these factors that
Yeah.
enter into the decision versus the scanners are sized for the number of deposits that the
Oh.
client is
Right,
making.
I see they're like these feeder mechanism in the picture.
Yeah, so, this
have
one, you can scan, some of them, you can scan as many as 100 checks at one time.
Uh-huh.
So now, to get back to the organization chart, one of the people that I mentioned on here was Michelle Brown. And Michelle this is a treasury management product, the online check deposit. And so Michelle is the expert, and if the village or if Tori or whoever the designated person is that's interested in finding out costs and
Right.
those types of things, then I'll have Michelle give Tori, for example, a call and describe and provide
Yeah, it'd be
size
useful
of the
just to
thing
find out, sure.
and provide the costs and the specifications and everything else that's involved.
Save some shoe leather.
Sure, I'll do
Or
that.
maybe even
Should I
safer.
have her call you?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I really had hoped that we would be able to do is sign the forms so that we would get
agree.
all
Since we're
of
all
this
here.
done. And I don't know, have you talked to United?
No,
Since
I
you've
haven't
been
talked,
ba-
no, I got back to the,
Have you talked to them recently?
No, not since we
Okay.
decided to go down this path.
So
Maybe it would be good
how
to
do we
set up a
close
call.
out?
Michelle, I would like to
I would just leave that account open for a while, to make sure there's not anything electronic coming through.
For
for example, we
and
still
then-
have these checks that we need to
Right,
sign
okay.
and process while we're getting this going.
Yeah, and so I would just recommend leaving it open for now, and we just won't put anything through it, so there won't be any charges.
So
and-
how do we,
Transfer.
how do we get all of the money that goes there to go to SunTrust? Do you do that? Do you know what I'm
Direct
saying?
deposit. Positive
Electronic
from-
deposits from the
Right.
state.
or the county?
None of them go there now. The only thing that goes there now is what we deposit. Everything that comes from the state and the county goes to the MLGIP because we'll get interest right away. We're at higher rate of interest.
Perfect.
Okay.
So the
So
only thing going into the United account are our
it's what we,
building permit
it's what we
fees.
deposit, and we won't
What we
deposit
actually
there anymore.
deposit.
And what we transfer from ML.
Yeah,
to
right, yeah,
whatever.
right.
Right, so we would need to, change the bank with MLGIP.
And how big a deal is that?
It's a piece of paper and authorized signer signs on it.
Okay. Do we need a motion also then to put signatories on that MLP account
Yes.
or transfer people?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I think we included that in our motion. was
We
both.
did, I think we did.
Yeah, we've got both of those.
So that was all bank accounts. All right, well, I'd rather get these signed and then Richard
Okay.
can take
And
them
then
with them,
Do we
so.
also need to, like, check signers have to be council members, so Dan or Tori would never sign.
It's whatever you all
It's
decide.
whatever you authorize.
Right.
I think that,
Is there
that's the
pen?
way it's
Is
been
this-
to
is
now,
this
we
your
should
pen?
keep it that way.
That's mine, yep.
Okay, I'll sign and give it back to you.
We just passed
Okay.
around, so print your name and then
Okay.
sign it on
Do
the
you
right
need
side.
driver's license? Is that,
Well, since the account was open, Mr. Polly,
It's not open yet,
oh, it's not open yet?
no.
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with,
or signing?
with you signing.
Okay.
But you have to add their names to the system,
Mhm.
the signers.
Okay.
Right, once it goes back. And then
That's your
on this one here, name, title, and signature from the
Okay,
state.
I'll put
Full
this
name,
away.
signature per the authorized act, give instructions, access to information, use bank services, perform transactions, enter into agreements are on this one. So this is the actual resolution, that's just a signature card.
Okay.
And then I assume Tori would be the one that would sign as the authorized signer saying that this was approved at an action tonight. So date resolution authorization adopted was August
Richard should probably sign.
Alright, August 24th, 2015. So,
Give me your pen again.
okay.
Yeah, nice.
So this covers the checking account and the credit card?
No, this is just the checking account. The credit card is the
Where
next
do I sign down here?
print,
Oh, up here,
title,
okay, right,
signature.
okay.
You know that they told us that all of the employees resigned the same day at the United Bank downtown.
Look at poor Sarah's face.
Why?
Including
What a
the,
nightmare.
including the branch manager.
Including the branch manager, because
They
we
walked
were
away?
calling,
Yeah.
that's the understanding.
Is that the one on K Street?
Yep.
I have to ask
For real?
because one of the council members over at Colmar Manor, the other town I work for, works at that branch.
Well, you
Oh,
should-
really?
Yeah, did you find
Yeah,
out?
we wanna find out what happened. We wanna
Because
get the
we
details
called,
there.
I called the chief financial officer of United Bank in Charleston, West Virginia, and their person called me back and said, well, all of the employees resigned on the same day.
No wonder we weren't getting any replies to messages.
Sign on the bottom there too is, it's verifying that the names
That's one
were
of the
correct and the
Risks
tax
that
ID
you
number
won't
is
have
correct.
with us,
Yeah,
because all of the employees that are servicing you all are gonna be, 5 or 6 of us in our department.
That was it.
And it's very unlikely, the ladies that work with me really need their job. They've also been there, like Carol
Really like their
Tregeser
jobs.
has been there for 26 years.
oh,
I mean, the average tenure of our commercial representatives is, I think it's like 18 years.
oh,
So, many of them were former branch managers, for example.
oh.
Yeah, they like working with SunTrust.
Huh.
It's a
Yeah, my
good
wife
team.
had a retail account and she really liked it. I don't know why, but she liked going there.
Do any of these other ones?
I think the top of this one, is this the? Yeah, I think you're signing, witness my hand and seal, this corporation is 24th day of August.
I'm so grateful that you've come with all these forms that we've met.
Yeah, so we
there.
can do it all right
Yeah,
here.
And hopefully
you just
won't
have
miss
no
anything.
idea because
Sign
So
and
when
then
we do
title.
have another
I think name
member,
and
it's
title.
the easiest thing for them to do to go to.
You can go to the branch,
and Sarah can-
Well, the easiest thing usually is I call Carol and she sends me an updated signature card and you just add her name.
You can do that,
So then they just come
Okay.
here and sign it.
I can just sign it here.
whatever works.
So did you say, you need copies of our ID or not?
no,
No.
Okay.
he
I'm
he
waving.
recognizes.
He's making an executive
Yeah,
decision.
right.
That is an executive decision.
Because I love it.
Sarah was
Who's
following
most
the
familiar
rules
with
over
these
here.
forms, are you or Richard? So you just look and make sure we,
Oh, I can look at the form.
yeah, if you just
To
see
make
if
sure.
there's anything else for that. And
Yeah.
this is the credit card. This is the application.
Did Denise mention that we need financial statements?
I gave them to you.
Oh, you did?
I thought I did.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a pile here.
Oh, no, here you go. I thought I gave it to you when you came in. There you go.
I see you've done this before.
Well, no, I just read her instructions.
She's very good at following directions.
Don't be so honest.
So on the credit card account, this resolution, I hereby certify that the following are the names and specimen signatures of the officers designated in the foregoing resolutions, and that
That's good.
each presently
Okay.
holds the title indicated therein.
Okay, who takes this?
Richard. And then the following individuals have been authorized to perform the duties of program manager on behalf of the corporation and is authorized to maintain the card account for the corporation.
That's
So-
Tori.
And
It looks like they're
Kasia,
looking
I
for
think.
signers
I'm gonna do two.
and like the accounts payable,
And then
day-to-day
is there a list of
management
who can make
person.
charges against?
I think that's what
That's-
this first part
Oh.
is, the names and specimen signatures of the officers designated in the resolution. They certify custodian record. Is present. That this corporation enter into a commercial credit card account with SunTrust, that one of the officers of this corporation listed below be and is hereby authorized to enter into, execute, and deliver in the name of and on behalf of the corporation agreements, documents, or other instruments deemed reasonable or necessary to open the account. So this is just saying who's authorized to open. Oh, here's the card holder. Okay, so this is saying who's authorized to sign the application. So
So there's three categories of
right.
signatures here. The people opening the account, people authorized to make changes to the account, and the people authorized to make charges to the credit card. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Sarah, is that correct?
all right.
That is correct.
So should
She
the
does a lot
treasurer
more
be
of
the
those
one
than
to
I
open
do.
the account?
So do we
I
need
think
a
all of you
motion?
open it, then Katya and I can both manage it in terms of saying who's on, and then who's gonna make charges. You could make
I
it
think
any or all
that we
of us.
decided that Katya and I would be able to make charges, because we wanted more, after this last credit card, we're only one person.
In addition to
Could do,
me.
in addition
yeah,
to you,
okay.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
that's
three-
good. Yeah.
So that there's three of us, I don't think everybody
it's-
needs to do it.
No.
No, but
Okay,
And then you can also do your online banking. You see, do you
Yeah, I
do,
was gonna ask about that.
right.
well, I wanted to ask about that because I use online banking at home.
It's
I'm all about the
wonderful.
online
It's
banking.
wonderful.
But,
Mhm.
for example, these checks need to be co-signed by 2 council members to be authorized. So I wouldn't want to get away from that sort of check and balance system.
No, but
Do you see what I
the
mean?
online banking is just to monitor and track your transactions.
Okay.
Oh,
That's it.
It's not actually,
So if you want to
Yeah.
stop payment, you could go online, stop
Right, and
payment
they
without
have
having to
to
call it
actually-
in.
Okay.
Somebody will have the authority to give permission, access to other people to kind of like do certain transactions,
I see.
but you have to actually add them to the online banking.
But there's no
Like
way
to-
to
like
have
to
2
make-
electronic
Right,
signatures.
like to do transfers and stuff.
Right.
You wanna
Okay.
move money.
Do transfers, look and see if a check is cleared.
Yeah, monitoring things, that's
Transfer money
great.
out
But
of
in
the
terms of
account.
actually
So what, we
taking
can't
money
bill
out of
pay
the
like
account,
that.
I just want to
Yeah.
make sure it's,
yeah.
Right, you don't wanna do that.
yeah.
Well,
Well, what
any of you
happens
four
when
can do
we
any of
bill
that
through our,
now because you all are all
credit
signers.
card? we don't have
or
two
those
people
four,
signing.
you're not.
There's a check
Right.
that we have to pay.
Dan, do you use online
Yeah,
cash
but that's
manager at all?
one
Yeah.
bill.
They don't
at
need to
the end of the
co-sign against
month.
each other?
Well, but you
For
tell
any
them, you
individual?
have
But
to
where does it say
present
that
it
two
like a,
signatures are
you know,
required?
an
That wasn't
expense
on there
claim.
anywhere.
so that we can
Mm-mm.
see
You
who
need
the
to co-sign.
charges
You must
are.
cross
So
out.
any
before
individual
we sign
council
the
member
check.
can
That's for the
empty
whole
out our
credit card.
Right.
But if there,
But the
if we
signature
have
card, we want
automatic
two signers.
payments
You
through
want
the
to
credit
sign
card
at all
bills.
times.
Yes.
At all times.
Okay.
But
that's
that
just
doesn't,
set up
there wasn't
automatically.
anything on
can't
that
do
form
that.
where you get, put two signers.
We have to pay the credit card with a check.
Yeah, I know,
We'll have
but
to
if,
indicate
but if
that.
but if the constant contact is through the
So,
credit
how you
card,
set that up, where you would
we're
put
not
that in there.
sending a separate check to
Usually it used
constant
to say-
contact.
Right.
Two
I see what
signatures
you're
are
saying.
required, but I
Oh.
don't see it on that one.
But those
So-
charges will all be.
They'll all be
on-
itemized on the
right.
credit card.
Right, so we'll
Yeah.
still,
Presumably, when you're paying off the credit card, you're
You have to look
verifying.
down the
Yeah.
list,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever signed a check for a credit card payment.
There are,
There always was one that
Yeah,
came through, I
there
don't know
is.
who were signers at the
There is.
time.
yeah, I've
We haven't-
signed them,
We haven't had them in a while.
well, a couple, about 2 months, yeah. Okay, now what?
You found something that we need to fix. We have to have more than one
Two,
signer.
yeah, it needs a document somewhere on there that it's two signers.
These are,
I don't-
Isn't this
Returning, no.
additional
Well, I know what this is,
signatories
'cause
on
it's,
business entity accounts?
I'm just wondering, do we have two people who can sign this? I know Arthur
Can we
can.
do it that way?
What's that? Oh, yeah,
Arthur and I
okay.
can sign it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Give me your
Here.
pen again.
I did, it's not, you have to twist it open.
Jack Hill gets his money back.
Cause we put, I think it's in addition to
It isn't
these.
open, twist
Yeah,
it.
so this, these four could do anything on the account. This is just to endorse for the positive collection track.
All of a sudden I caught it.
Yes,
Additional signature for the result of the final result was additional signatures only to sign
And
to endorse
going
for the
back to the
positive
fact that I
collection of
brought it up.
checks, drafts, or other instruments or written orders for the
Before.
payment of money payable to business.
oh, hey,
entities.
what happened,
Sarah-
Signed drafts, wire funds.
what
How
happened
do
to
we,
the,
where do we include, like,
initialing
two
the,
signatures
change to
required
the
on
site
here?
plan?
I think we'll have to add it to
I,
additional
we'll have to
signers
wait
in that
Okay.
form.
till after.
That's what
the-
I
That's
mentioned
the
to
only
Dan.
spot.
Okay.
But
Do you think everyone
Who's
needs to sign
what's
again down
WSD
here?
Capital, are they the building?
That
Uh,
we're requiring two signatures?
Nay.
that's what Sarah, she's opening these accounts every day, so.
It was 3515
Oh,
separate.
what she's
it came down
saying.
for over
Where's the F? That's just the front.
Sign the check.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, okay.
Sign the check.
How did you find it?
Oh, when I went to the files a couple weeks ago, when we were cleaning it up.
We've been
I didn't hear that, what?
busy going through
It's
files.
And they never complain, they never say, where's our money?
At least
Oh,
not
you're
the
talking
last-
about the bond check? Oh.
Not the last 2 months, so, but it had been.
Arthur, you can keep
I'll tell you
that.
later.
If you-
No, I'll just borrow.
I'll tell you later. It's on,
Yeah.
it's on record.
Dan's hard at work
I
over
don't-
there. What do you need
I don't
us
see
to
where,
do?
I don't see where it says the second, the old signature cards and resolutions used to say you requires two signatures or you fill in the blank, but I don't see it on those.
Because basically the additional signatories on these accounts is just saying that these additional signatories are not authorized to do anything but just to sign and endorse deposits.
But Sarah, we would like to have it to where the checks cannot be cashed unless there are two signatures on them.
I think that's something we can stipulate on the account, but I don't think the signature card features that.
Right, that just establishes who's
Yeah.
authorized.
You
Right.
know, I don't know what your experience has been with that, but I don't open as many of these accounts as you do every day. But I don't know that SunTrust actually has a system for controlling that.
They do.
They do?
Yes, because we had, when I was working at the U.S. Grains Council, who used SunTrust, we had levels of signatories of where checks for 5,000 could be signed by one, 10,000 could be signed by two, and anything over 10,000 required an officer signature. And SunTrust monitored those.
Really?
Uh-huh.
We can look into it.
So, I mean, it's important to us because it's part of our audit. And it's, you know, it helps us audit-wise.
No, I understand.
Right,
The,
so we want to keep that.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's not part of the positive pay process? When you
No.
come today? No?
In fact, in the previous.
To be truthful
Even
about it.
United caught a check that,
Only one thing at a time.
Had no
the one had no
signatures.
signature, that
Right.
just slipped by us, completely.
what positive pay
Completely so far.
does is it matches the pay name
Right.
with the amount
Okay.
and that type of, so there's a transmission typically from the client to SunTrust of all the checks that they've issued and who the payee was and all that stuff. And so when checks are presented against the account, then SunTrust monitors those checks, and if there's an exception, then there'll be a contact, for example, at the village, that they'll call and say, we've got an exception. Or you can do it online, actually, with Online Treasury Manager, which is something that I wanted to briefly talk about. With Online Treasury Manager, it's our treasury management workstation, and you can do, there are dozens and dozens of benefits and features of that product. For example, you can initiate wires. You can initiate ACHs. You can move money from one account to another account without having to go to a branch or do any type of manual deposits or anything like that. You can do stop payments. You can look at current day reports of money coming in and money that's been paid out. Of course, when I talk about all these things, you know, there's always a charge with them. And
I was just gonna say, you
Yeah, I
can
mean-
stop payment without paying $25 fee or
well, it
something?
wouldn't be
No, you still pay the
$25 if, you know, if you're a retail client, maybe it's $25, but if you're a commercial client, it's a lot less than that. But if the council members are interested in a presentation on Online Treasury Manager, then I'd have to bring Michelle Brown back and we can do a presentation on that, the features, the costs, or maybe,
But I think that given our size, and, you know, we're talking about 30 checks a month, we're probably at, you know, pretty simple account. We don't have much complication, we don't send wires,
do you have positive pay currently?
I don't know
No,
what that is.
No.
What's that, when you set up an account to pay automatically?
You go and you
Yeah.
process your checks and you send a file to SunTrust saying these are the check numbers and amount of the checks, and so when they come through, they will not pay anything that doesn't match up to that file.
Oh,
A
right.
few checks as we write, I mean, I don't, you know, unless someone gets checks and it's.
Well, and we have
forging them
two
and-
signatories, I mean, so there's,
Somebody could forge both their names,
Sure.
upload two names.
The amounts they can forge?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, well, we haven't had a problem that we're aware of. in all
Always the
these
first
years.
time.
True that.
How much is that service?
Don't know. I'd have to look into it. I mean,
And maybe this is something, as we're going along and Tori says, this is working for me, or this is not working for me,
Yeah.
you council people are
Well,
slow.
If we're gonna take this, if we're gonna take Martin's edition to the next level,
Right.
one of the things that I mentioned earlier, and, you know, you all can sort of think this through, which is how frequently would you like to meet with myself and Sarah, let's say, and Michelle Brown? Other members of the team, would you like to meet with them once every 6 months, or should we schedule a meeting 3 months or 1 month from now?
once a year.
And during that meeting, we can discuss all of these issues, and, you know, you can ask questions on pricing, and we'll have all that.
Maybe after, I don't know, 6 months to see what experience is, then we.
Well,
think
I
that's
think
full.
6 months is a long time.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I mean, let's do it a month or two, and then we can.
Well, we have accumulated enough experience to see how things are going.
Well, if we have questions, they will
Yeah.
probably arise within a month or two. Most of them, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that things need to turn around in a dime as that I'm concerned that there can't be some embezzlement or something. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people involved in something like this.
Well, we got some good checks
whatever-
and balances in place
Yeah.
already, where 2 people are required to sign it.
So is that gonna be
I'm the
maintained?
bookkeeper, I
Sure, right.
process it, I have no
I
authority.
like what we have, that's what
You all
I'm saying.
sign
Yeah.
it,
I
I
would-
do the
to-
bank
to
rec.
But it
get-
wasn't
to
clear
get
to me
something
we
done,
could-
everyone here would have to get
So it is
involved.
important to you that you have this, two signers,
Yep.
two signers.
That's the
That's
thing I
right.
wanna
It's
maintain
for our
mostly.
residents to know that it's
Yeah.
not just one council member who can serve.
Yeah, that's my main issue.
Richard, I can look into that.
And
Be a good
Carol could
idea.
probably answer that question too. I mean, when you set it up, there's probably a thing to check or something when you actually open the account.
God, yeah, don't tell us that United, whose employees walk out, is the only bank that can do it. We are in serious trouble. Now, what are the stock markets in the tank?
Do we have any other papers that we need to sign?
The credit card account, so
Okay.
who's authorized to sign the application saying that the village could open the account?
That would be all 4 of them, maybe. I don't know.
Well, this
Well, I
is
think
just,
any one, I'll
Yeah,
sign it.
Richard's.
so Richard's, okay, so over here,
So do we need a motion giving me that authority?
No, I think,
I move that Richard be authorized to sign
he has
the
it.
credit card account,
To open the credit
to
card?
open the credit card
Okay.
account.
okay.
Second?
Yo,
All right.
Bye.
All
Okay.
right, and then they also want to know who's authorized to perform the duties of program manager on behalf of the corporation.
That would be
And
Katya
and
and
maintain.
myself.
I move
Okay.
that Tori and Katya be program managers on the credit card
So
account.
if you, Richard, would put your
Or
name,
you
title,
should second
signature
that. Aye.
here, and then those
Yo.
2
Aye.
sign below.
All in-
So you're on the top part.
So we
And
really
now
have to
the la-
keep all 3 of them are not here.
So we've now said who could sign the credit card and who could inquire about the spending and everything. Now
Who
the
can
third
make
thing is who
charges.
can make charges.
I think it's the 3 of them again. Is that correct?
Okay, now do they get a credit card for each one?
No.
Is that, because that's the
Yeah,
way this
they
form
could.
is spelled
Yes, they
out.
But we don't really need that. I
then
would know
how
if
would
you guys
you-
want that.
I mean, to put the card holders,
I think we had 1 card before and I think that's
yeah,
fine.
I don't think you want
I
more
don't
than
want,
one
I don't
card
like
for
the
it.
idea of
Do I
doing,
say-
yeah.
so how do we fill
I
the
have no idea. what-
application
I
out
think you
to
are
designate
down
them with
here.
1 card?
The
Oh, and
following
also, so-
individuals
Well, if it's
are
just one
authorized to
card, then you're just
perform.
gonna put in the name of the business.
So I
You're not
was
gonna put-
authorized to,
Village
Correct.
of Martin
Right.
Station,
Yeah.
the name of
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this, if you need additional cards, then you're gonna put the individual names.
but we
That's
only
when you're
need
gonna
one,
need
don't
Just
we?
one.
the social
Yeah.
security
Just one, I
number.
think.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
The
don't,
only thing I
So
would
is that
say
filled
that
out
we
properly
ran
to
into
get us one
problem.
card?
Just hotel won't give me.
Nothing is
Ocean
complete.
City, they won't.
Well, it's got the name, the
give us
ID
tax
number,
number.
You're
we're
gonna complete
Line,
here.
stay on the room.
we're told we don't need to.
Card. I think the way to avoid that maybe is to have a check.
Yeah, so business name, Village of Martin's Edition,
oh, to have
The
a check.
municipal,
corporation, there's our tax
To go
ID
there with
number,
the check.
here's the
Okay.
address,
And they
contact
can reimburse
information,
it tomorrow.
business revenue,
Even if you had a tax ID
Email
card with
address.
you,
I had it on.
so Tori is gonna be the
Had it
only
before I got
authorized
it.
signer.
It matched.
that
They
doesn't make
still
any
would
sense.
not
Well,
do it.
no, see, we want all 3 of them to be authorized signers.
And
So
we- I
where
was
do
the
you
only
add
person
that?
who
I mean,
ran
here's
that problem.
Victoria, and I thought the other 2 would go here, but if you put them here, they're gonna get a credit card.
Tear it up.
Well, that's true. We can just cut it up when it, except it'll be in our name. Are we not gonna get the credit card in the name of Martin's Edition?
Yeah.
It's supposed to, but how
Yes,
you
you're gonna get one in the name, and then if you need other people to be using the credit card, you have to have the individual names.
Mm-mm.
So
We
we
don't
won't
need
fill out
anyone
the
else.
other people.
So if again,
So then
Any-
you just get one.
one, and then
And then you
Katya
guys
could
can
take
use
that
it.
one, and
Right.
Richard could take the one as
Mhm.
need be. Okay.
or then just. get-
And that we can be authorized to call the credit card
Right, and-
company and,
That's the
That's-
program manager piece.
okay,
That was,
So
those
then it
are
would be-
allowed,
so it would
those
be
are allowed to
storage.
do that.
Okay.
You're not calling
Yeah.
the credit card.
Okay.
Are you good with that?
I'm fine with that, yes.
So
I'm
this
not
will get
very
us
good
one
at
Who
card.
else needs to
It'll be
be
just
up
one
here?
card.
And whoever has it.
This
can
is-
We
sign.
discussed
Do we
that.
need more
What's your
than one?
concern about having
Here?
additional card holders?
No, we don't, we don't, we
Just
don't,
don't want them.
I was supposed
This is
to,
program manager, but these are the people, are these the people making the charges? Where-
no, that was my authorization to make the
Authorized
credit
to
card.
sign the credit card agreement, and
Got
then
it. So
you
we
2
only
are
need one
authorized
signature here?
to sign that agreement.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just to enter into
Got
the
it.
agreement, you gave them authority by motion.
Okay, okay.
So now, everything else is signed here, and then you get to sign as, and I'm gonna cross out guarantor, cause I don't think you wanna be a guarantor.
If it's a non-profit, then you don't need a grantor.
Right, but we'll just cross it out to make
It
sure.
wasn't.
So what do we do now?
This is, one card in the name Village of Bards Edition.
Right.
And it says, seeing you made the motion that all three of you were authorized on the
Right.
card. She's
Right.
saying that that's all you need, you don't need to do anything there, and you just need to sign as the authorized signer from this form, so you're authorized.
So when the new council members are elected, what's gonna happen with the authorized signatories if we need to update them? Is
So
Richard the only one who's allowed to sign going forward?
He was allowed to sign and authorize you all to open the accounts if,
Program manager should be
The
able to
program
change the
manager
accounts.
should be able to change the names of, well, but it sounds,
yeah, it says that.
are Tori, Katya, and myself authorized to act on behalf of the credit card? What form gives
That's the
us?
program manager line.
Those two are, your name wasn't on here. The following individuals have been authorized to perform the duties of a program manager on behalf of the corporation, is authorized to maintain the card account for the corporation, and that's Katya and Tori.
That would be to make changes to who's authorized to use it, for example,
I
right?
assume
Or
that's
to
what that means.
close the account
Richard,
or
do
something
you
like
want to be
that.
authorized to make changes?
Well, I don't care, no, I
I
don't.
think
Do
we
you
have at
think-
least two.
I think it
That's-
makes sense
two.
if it's the manager and the
And the
treasurer
treasurer,
can
right.
make
Right,
changes.
that way if Katya
Right.
leaves, I could do it, if I leave,
Right.
Katya can
And
do
you
it,
can sign,
and
and you
then,
can also sign.
but the
use
three
the
of
credit
us
card.
can use it.
Can
Right.
use the credit card.
And, but
Yeah.
but just clarify, Arthur's point is the key piece of, the two of them can sign up a new council member to
Correct.
use it if
Yes.
needed.
Yes,
Right.
Is that
that's
correct?
right.
Or whenever
Yes.
it is needed, at some
Right.
point it's gonna be
Yes.
needed.
Right.
So we think we all got this right now?
Yeah.
That's what it is, confusing as can be.
This is so much better for that we're all here. and
Yeah. Oh,
this-
isn't it so much easier?
Oh my gosh, this is wonderful of you to come.
Sarah and the other
Here.
Richard.
Devin,
Yeah.
you can make a copy of that.
SunTrust
So
Richard.
we know what we
Only
gave
one
from
copy.
I like
We o-
that.
We only need one copy
I'm just leave my.
for one file.
Thank you.
So you can distribute it. You.
Alright,
Thank you.
anything else, you all need from us?
Not that I can think of.
You wanna see last
these are
year's
so-
budget, it's on the website, just in
Is it?
May for the,
I try to get on your website, and for some reason,
oh God.
we got blocked.
You got
Because
blocked.
of
SunTrust
malware
did.
or something
Oh,
like
really?
that.
At the bank?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bank won't let me get on. Cause
Won't
he
let
told
me
me
get
that and
on?
Oh, the
I
bank?
logged right on and I
So
said,
you
I
got
can get
your-
on.
I can
your
log
own-
on from, they block everything from Fannie Mae, everything. But I can log on to the village
Oh,
website.
so you must be more secure than Fannie Mae.
I wonder what is it about that site that's suspicious?
Is it a, is it a .org or .net?
I have no idea.
Does it
No.
sound maybe it's too close to, what's that person's
I've tried a
name?
couple times
Where that's in
logging on.
Yes,
It's all
that's interesting.
Madison.
Or maybe
Oh,
it's,
boy.
does it
Ashley
suspect
Madison?
a virus or something?
That's a different sort.
Could
Uh,
be, yeah, maybe
That's
it's
not a
something like
village
that.
problem.
Malware or.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, let's not discuss that.
Okay,
7.
7,
Alright, anything else?
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll look into the,
Double signature.
the double signature, dual signature.
You'll
And
solve
I'll
that
connect with
problem.
you, Richard.
We have Sarah, and then we have 5 commercial relationship
Yeah, I'll talk
managers
to,
that'll solve any problem
yeah.
that you all can
I'm
possibly
sure,
come up
I'm
with.
sure it's something we can
Dan's
do.
like, I have
I'm
several.
sure we can do
You
it.
can deal with it
I'm sure we
downtown.
can do
Right.
it, yeah, I'm sure we can do it, yeah.
Does anyone need one of these, or are you okay?
Oh, I already gave my.
I do have our names and contact information
Right,
in the
in
write-up.
this, right.
Yeah, so, but,
I'll
you know.
take it just in case. Thank you.
And here's your pen,
Oh,
thank you,
glad to lend it to you.
thank you so much.
So where can you get some good CDs?
Oh, he's on the
Arthur.
CD.
I'm looking,
He's
we
been doing
have,
this for a
we
couple
have,
years now.
no, we've
I still think the
so
business money
much
market
money.
is better than the CD.
Well, we have so much money in the bank earning nothing.
It has to be 100% insured.
It has to be 100% insured. Can't be more than 250,000. And, so we
Because
just have
otherwise
to
it gets
distribute.
collateralized.
We were getting a
It's our
1/4%.
policy that has to be 100% insured.
It is the whole stuff.
But if, ponder that,
For raising, right?
if there's some product that
It was a
meets all
sad
of our
day.
requirements,
Hopefully not for
It's
long.
gonna make
to
the
that to
interest
see.
rates go
There
up.
you go,
You know,
yeah,
we know it's at least 250,000.
Right.
right, yeah.
I like that we brought a
Beyond.
challenge to
Yeah.
Sarah tonight.
In the aggregate,
But the
it can't
title is
exceed
not gonna
200.
change, so I
Right.
don't, so it's gonna be 250,000. It's not like
Yeah.
you have different titles.
So I don't wanna
Different titles,
close
the
this off,
beneficiaries would
but we
change.
have to do a whole budget
Right.
thing
Yeah,
yet
and I have
tonight,
to
and
get
we're
the
already at an
Okay, well,
8:30.
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Is it appropriate
Yes.
to say council members?
Yes.
Yes, they're all
Oh, okay.
council members.
Yes.
Well, it
sounds
was
so
very nice to have met
prestigious.
you,
I was talking to Mr.
council members.
What? You
Well, when I started getting mail
And then
saying
she
the
walked
other
in and saw us
Thank you for
running
coming
in the
down.
rain.
Right.
Thank you, it was
I'm
very
trying to
nice
get
to
them
meet
to
you.
call me
Thank you for the
excellent.
business, I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah,
very much.
excellency.
And,
Oh,
Richard,
we're
great to
there,
see you.
Richard, thank you.
Right, it hasn't taken.
Sarah, great to meet you.
Great to meet you,
I'll see
Mr.
you.
Kranek. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. My red pen and my sparkling water.
I think the
Thank
rate
you.
is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh, Tori, you have a card now?
Thank you.
Ripped it up
We're looking
on,
forward to doing a great
printer.
job.
I can make one for you.
Nice to-
We're looking forward to it too.
Yes.
We're looking for an
Yeah, good night.
office that
Bye-bye.
doesn't
Richard,
work
I'll
out.
talk to you next.
It's really nice. It's a homemade one.
Thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
You buy Avery, just
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Now the exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have one of these, or do you want one?
Oh, I don't think so.
Give one to Arthur.
All right.
This, it's-
That's all right.
I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm just gonna.
Did we,
oh, sure.
the motion made earlier, did that include, transaction of the MLGIP also? For
No,
all council members, or do we need something?
no, we did include MLIG, yes. We did
So all
include
the
it,
accounts, all four?
All accounts, all accounts.
All accounts.
yeah. And we specifically did announce the MLIG. Yep.
Maryland Local Government
Investment
Investment Pool.
pool.
We have some outstanding CDs, I think.
Oh, my
No, I'm
God.
serious.
Jesus,
That
Arthur,
are
I'm gonna
paying-
bang you on the
They're
head.
paying 0.3%.
Wow. Okay.
So Katya will be back in a minute. So is this our amended budget? Dan, did you amend our budget here? Do we have-
I didn't print that out, so I'm not sure what that is. Is that, I don't
It would be
I
in
don't
the
recall getting.
building
amended.
enforcement, and it is.
It is.
Yeah,
No.
it's in 522, 524.
Those are the same accounts we've always had, though.
Okay, what
We
did
call
I
them
miss?
building review and permit, or are you just talking about the dollar figures?
No, I'm talking about the ones that we were separating what,
We're supposed to have a 5.
This does not reflect that.
the
Yeah.
5226.
That, it does not reflect that. That would be under,
So that's
right.
Wayne, right?
Whereas before it was 5222 and 5224, it was a third category.
Yes.
And the
Correct.
5226 covered,
It was
Uh,
split the 5224 into two.
so that there was enforcement, and then it was his other duties,
Municipal
right?
operations.
Municipal operations, that was the word. And so we just need to reallocate that money into two categories.
20 and 20, or is
No,
was
it was,
24 and 26.
I'll send you an email, Dan.
Okay.
There's even a picture.
The minutes?
Yeah, it's from the.
Yeah, it was in the minutes, I think.
So it'd be building review and permits is 5222, 5224 is enforcement, and 5226 is municipal operations.
Right.
So it's not, so we take the and oversight out, and then the amounts will be determined.
Okay. So what do we want to do with this budget overview? What do you want?
Well, I think there's two pieces of it. I think just kind of going through and refamiliarizing everybody else
Right.
is one of our goals. And then the other goal was to kind of talk through with Tori and Dan here, we have discussed recently making sure that we're matching all things. Dan knows where all the pots of money get pulled from, but we as council members don't always know that.
Right, I'll say, so we need to talk about what, well, for those things that might be confusing. For instance, if we just start with the categories, permit fees under revenue is pretty clear. The cable TV franchise is pretty clear. This is,
So as we're going through it, another thing I think is important to mention is when are we actually incurring these expenses, or when are we expecting this income? So if it's certain months,
Right, and I told you
Yep.
I would bring this with you, and I don't know if you gave out to everyone copies of it. It's a little small
have
print,
not
I was trying to
given
get
that
it all on one page.
Are those, is that,
Here's stacks of things here.
Oh, there we go. Alright, so everyone takes one of
Look-
those.
Look
pass
in,
around,
look in
and
the,
then-
Katja, look in the ledger for June,
Okay.
and you'll see
So-
all the payments as they come in over the years.
Tori, do you want a copy of it?
yeah, so I
The
was
ledger
looking
for, okay.
so for example,
So that,
Thank you.
income
that's
tax
transaction by transaction.
doesn't get paid every month, but maybe it gets paid 9 or 10 months out of the year. So
I see,
it shows when it's, he's estimating
oh, I
here
see.
yeah,
when
got
it
it.
typically does.
Yeah.
So we'll see the
Yeah.
pattern.
Well, here's the,
Right.
okay, this is it, this is what I was saying to look at. Yeah,
I thought
the
that might
June
be
ledger,
helpful, yeah.
right, this
So
tells
thi-
you,
This is for the whole fiscal year that
Right.
just ended.
Right.
So, you could go through, gotcha. On this one here, this is the general ledger. So if you look at permits, and this is for last fiscal year, so July 1st of 14 through June 30th of 15. These are all the monies we took in for permits, who they were from, what their address was, and the amounts. So you could see kind of the time frame that they come in. Cable TV franchise fees comes in quarterly, so you could see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 payments, what the amounts were, and when to expect those.
Okay.
Well, this
so-
is really,
so
this is.
I find this, I think the ledger to me is one of the most useful.
Well, this
of the
income
documents.
sheet also
also.
is very, very good about letting us know when to expect money, if it's this one.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
And the
right.
final column is the actual budget you adopted. And
Okay.
what I did is I took all the revenues and broke them out to where I thought we would
Would
collect
get-
them based on history, or if I didn't know,
Okay.
I just allocated them equally.
Right.
And same thing on the expenditures. So the final column here should match up with this list,
Right.
with the exception of those building permit ones, because those weren't changed yet.
And then one of the other things, and I'll find it, but matching up terminology from all these different things, and like with our audit, there's several things that have different, like we use undesignated funds in one line here, allocated funds another, but then when you look at the audit, they don't match. And for non-budget folks like myself, when I'm trying to follow, it drives me bananas.
What is shown on the financials, the non-audited financials, are the old terminology. The Government Accounting Standards Board actually changed the terminology, and that's what's on the audit.
Was that it?
The auditors use unexpended fund balance and spendable fund balance and words like that.
Does QuickBooks default to this other
It's
terminology?
whatever I
Oh.
put into it. So,
Well-
I've just kept it consistent instead of changing, and, I guess whoever reads the audited statements, will see a different name. So, I mean, we could make it all consistent, but then I don't know if that would confuse
Yeah.
everyone changing them.
Well, but the way the audit groups things, it, and would not give us the sort of reporting we currently
Right,
get in the
right.
budget, because it seemed to me they grouped things into like communications, and they took stuff from different categories. And we wanted the breakout, or at least was my understanding.
I'm not sure which sections of the audited report, but in the very back, Exhibit B, and I've got a copy here, that is it's a summary of budgeted versus actual figures, and these should correspond pretty well with the individual accounts from your budget.
Okay.
And then they lump them together to come forward, but if you want to see the detail, look at the back first, instead of the summarized numbers further up in the report. where
I
you're-
find the audited thing to be a very unhelpful document. I think it's done to meet legal requirements, not for management purposes.
I agree with you, Arthur.
Yeah.
I think of it as just a check to make sure everything's copacetic, but that doesn't mean it.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't
It's
even
not a
do
tool.
that. I mean,
Right,
that's what's
that's-
so annoying to me is that we pay all that money and they actually do very little
They
testing.
check to see whether the auditing is correct.
They
Or check to see whether it's.
It meets, the audit meets the state requirement of
Right.
having an audit.
Right.
And we remitted to the state by November 1st is the due date. So, it's to have an independent company come in, look at your books and say, yes, what you've reported, all along in the year is what we agree with.
And it seems to
And-
me the best defense against embezzlement is us. I mean, we're the ones who are watching expenses, and if all of a sudden expenses are really creeping up, it's like,
Sure,
wait a minute,
sure.
why is this happening?
Sure.
And then you get back to the whatever, the general ledger and start looking at who we're paying checks to, because the audit firm is never gonna do
No,
that.
they're not looking at that.
Yeah, but when they do the audit, they do, look at the variances between budget versus actual. They look at actuals this year to last year. They do those types of comparisons, and they will ask me.
And then I
point of
find that
contact or-
really useful, and I think, I'm disappointed, because the council ought to be involved in that discussion when they do the audit, because that gives us our best look at explaining why there are differences.
Well, we have that every month when the information comes
Yeah.
up. That-
No, but
That's what
I
Dan
think,
gives us.
yeah, but the variance reports, I think, are another way of looking, that give us some protection of embezzlement.
And that was also part of your desire, right, to be bringing the actuals back into line. We've been plussing up for years, but we haven't been
Right.
zeroing out things or decreasing when we're not using funds that we budgeted for, and that was one thing that you had mentioned. You wanted
Right,
to go
that
back
we need
doing.
to, because one of the things the auditors talked about, at least they did a couple of years ago, was, that we were overestimating expenses by 15% or something, and they said, you really ought to get that down to, 5%.
Every time we try to do it, everyone would say, just in case.
I know.
In case
I
this
know.
goes over.
Yeah.
This is called conservative budgeting.
Right. So let's do the maximum expense. But I think that what we could do, does that count, Dan, when we do the mid-year budget review, the sort of February, March, and if we see we have too much money in a category, we could start taking that money out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you adjust your budget at any time, but if you're taking it out, then you're really just bumping up your unreserved funds.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, whatever you take it
But
out
we're-
by,
but
because you're
it-
saying
We're
not
gonna
But I
do it
think
at the
that
end of the year.
process should happen as we build the budget in the
Right, that's what he
spring.
was
Right,
saying.
Yeah.
that's when
Right.
it happens, yeah,
Yeah.
That
and we ought to make those numbers more accurate for the current fiscal year so that they're more accurate for the next fiscal
I
year.
agree, I agree.
Instead of keep building,
Yeah,
Up.
I agree too.
yeah. Okay, so we all agree on that, should we?
Well, we could also look at it quarterly, right, and adjust, so not wait for 9 months of the year to be over.
Well, we could, but it
If we
is,
wanted to.
yeah. It's easier, because even when you do it in February and March, you only have 6 months to work from. And it actually isn't, a quarterly wouldn't give us enough, I don't think it gives us enough
And
information.
one of the problems is there's always outstanding invoices that
Yeah.
haven't come in. All the money, usually the money, the receipts, the revenues come in
Right,
on time. But the bills
Like, for example, the snow
tend to be
plowing,
delayed.
by February, we'd be lucky if we'd even gotten all our
Yeah,
bills and paid them.
Yeah.
I would guess.
yeah.
Yeah, see, a big chunk of the snow plowing doesn't even happen until February.
Probably because we had
We-
snow
we-
in February, though.
Right, but what I'm
But
saying is
also,
that's when
but they
we're,
don't send the bill until May.
Okay, well, we can
Or
always
March, but I'm
assume that
just
we're
saying.
a month in arrears.
And
Yeah.
we have already
Yeah.
started putting into our contracts that we're expecting people to be submitting their bills faster than that.
Right, so within 30 days,
Put in 30 days.
yeah.
that's.
Perfect.
Do we punish people? Can we punish people if they don't send their bills in?
Probably
Actually,
threaten
that-
to punish.
Do you do that on any of your?
Actually, one of the other towns we did, council did take action, said that if you don't have your bills in within 3 months, then we won't pay you. But I don't know whether you could actually do that legally or not.
Has it helped? Did it make any difference in getting the bills
It was
in?
really to
Expectations.
target one or two particular people.
Well,
who
yeah, I mean,
turn their
it
bills
always
in.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
did
it's
it
in all of
help?
my, in most
It-
of my
it did help.
contracts, I have a amount of time that I have to submit my bills by. Now, if I wanted to get into litigation afterwards for them not paying me for services rendered because I didn't submit my bills,
Right.
but it is a motivational thing
Right.
to have a good relationship with my clients to submit my bills within the time frame they want them submitted.
Yep.
So and speaking of that, did Wayne ever send a bill in for his year end?
I got one this morning.
For last fiscal year?
I haven't even looked at it. I
No,
have
it was for December.
for December. Okay.
And Alan, we haven't gotten a bill from either.
Yeah, that was one of the notes that I had here.
2014.
For building review and permits, I only got June through December of 14.
Yeah.
And then for enforcement and oversight, I only got January through May. So, I haven't seen 7 months worth of bills for enforcement and oversight and 6 months for.
And at what point can we still go back and put them in last fiscal year?
We're getting close to
Closing the
that
books.
point. I mean, technically, they say 2 months after the end of the fiscal year, you could accrue expenses back. The auditors will allow us to do it until the time to issue the final report. But I'd rather have the figures when they come in, which is right after Labor Day. I usually give them all the financials. I give them all the
Give
financials
the
when they come
accountant,
in.
give the auditors? Who are you talking about?
The auditors, yes, yeah.
And that just, getting that stuff in is so important for the budget
Yeah.
cycle. If
Yeah.
we don't know.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'll call Susan tomorrow and
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, for both
Yeah.
of them.
Okay.
Okay, so where were we with the
Well,
second
we're
item?
going to look at what these county revenue sharing, what is, can you explain some of these? Or do you know what these all are?
Yeah.
Okay. County,
Do you know what they are?
yeah, no.
I hope so.
Yeah. Do you know what these are? No, I was looking at Katya because, anyway, go ahead. County revenue sharing.
That is to avoid double taxation. So there's a cost of services that we provide that the county also provides. So once a year, and it's supposed to be in September, the county will cut the municipalities a check for what they feel is the equivalent to the services we're providing.
So trash collection, for example.
Trash collection, police services, any type of public works
Don't,
services.
there was a big study done on this that was not a very good one, about 2 years ago.
But we get police services from the county.
Yeah.
We get police services from the county
But we
and
pay
we
for 'em.
supplement.
Well, I
Right.
think that's a
It's a
different.
supplement.
There's some cities like Tacoma Park that has its own police force.
Right.
Yeah.
The county
And
does
that's
not
different than
patrol.
what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're getting our main police
From the county.
from the county, and then we choose to augment it, which
Right.
is
Right, so it's
different. than-
roads,
Security force.
trash, that sort of.
Okay.
So it's in addition to, not in place of.
Yes.
And then
That's
when it
the
comes to something like
delineation.
waste collection, it's
In place.
based on, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's what the county would have provided if
Right.
we weren't doing it.
Yeah, but the
Right.
So
formulas, they
we-
come up with formulas.
Right, but
to
I
do
get
all
my
this.
trash picked up once a week,
Yeah,
and you guys get it twice a week. So my point is, it's not what we pay to
Right.
waste
No, I
management.
understand
it's
that,
what-
but I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to understand what we're being compensated for. So trash, roads.
yeah.
Snow plows.
Maintenance of the roads, yep.
We do all that ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm not as familiar with Montgomery County tax differential as I am with Prince George's County. Prince George's County municipalities actually have to submit each year what we feel our equivalent is, and they give you a form.
Oh,
And for
really?
each public works, street lighting is another
Oh.
one. Because we pay the street light bill, street lighting, all of your police, all of your public works, libraries, fire departments. Not all the municipalities have those things, but those are all things that are included in the differential. you need to submit it by a certain date, the county has to reply back by a certain date, and you either agree or disagree. If disagree, you argue it out and hopefully come to a decision, and then they tell you, okay, we agree that that's a certain cents on the tax rate equivalent. So instead of a 96 cents tax rate of Prince George's County, you might get a 15-cent differential. So your county tax rate would be 15 cents less in Prince George's County. Here, I've never really seen the whole process, and I
Beta,
don't
this
think
is
it's
done, Montgomery County is trying to reduce the amount as much as possible.
right.
And we're getting less than half of what we used to get. I think about 40%. And it's only $28,000. It's not a big item in our budget. For some other municipalities, it is a big item, but not for us. So it's,
You're right, they were keeping it, reducing it.
and
At
they
one
kept
point,
squeezing
they
and
said,
squeezing, almost
Right.
to zero.
right, that they were going to return only as much money as we collected in our own property or real personal property tax, or
Yeah.
was it in our real property? No, it can't be
No,
our real
yeah, it was in
property.
it was in the real property tax.
Was it, although we
Yeah.
collect a lot in that.
Well, we raised our tax rate.
Well, you didn't have a tax rate for years.
Yeah.
You didn't have a real property tax.
Yes,
But this comes up almost every year when
Yeah.
people see our,
Surplus of $2.3
Undesignated
million.
fund
Which is
balance.
something we will want to consider, I think, this coming year, coming budget.
and that goes back
About-
to the restricted fund balance, committed fund balance,
Yeah,
But isn't
Yeah,
that,
that's,
unassigned.
it's only gonna make it worse if we allocate
But
it
that's
back.
what I'm telling you,
Yeah.
this is where people
right.
start to, they're like, why do you have this?
we gotta start spending it, but
Yeah.
that's a different issue.
And that's what
That's
the
a different
designations are for
Right.
down
Right.
here, to show
Right.
your intent of
Okay.
spending those things so that.
Highway users, that's another one that they keep, what is our total, I can't go across here, 20,000?
we've budgeted
20,000.
20 for it.
20.
right.
Budget 20, and, that's an item that was reduced down about
Again,
5
that's
years
another
ago.
one.
We're, right now, I think we're at about 30% of what we used to get
Yeah.
for that revenue, and this past legislative session, they allocated a one-time allocation again. If you look at the detailed general ledger last year, under the highway users, you could see, on August 8th, this is on page 2 of the report, highway users,
Yeah,
fiscal year 15 one-time grant of 13,687. So of the 18,000 we've collected, fiscal year 15, 13 was for one-time grant.
so there's 5,000 with the rest.
Yep. And I
So
had,
we should
that-
expect that to go down then.
Yeah, you don't
no,
know.
it actually it went up a little bit this year, and I had
Another?
the figure.
A one-time grant?
Yeah, they authorized the one-time grant again, but they haven't restored us back to the full level. And I've got
This
the
is
figure
when,
somewhere, but
this
it's-
dates back to 2009 when revenues collapsed for everyone. And the county really cut back on everything that they were sending to the municipalities.
our one-time grant this year is 16,253 of that 20,000.
Okay.
So when you look at this report, you'll see the 16,253 showing is coming in September, and then the balance of 3,000 spread out a little bit each month to get to the 20,000 at the end of the year. Income tax is our largest revenue
That's the big
source.
one.
Yep. The stock market crashing, and it might go down.
Oh,
you
God.
know,
Yeah,
because,
not-
we see a big,
Right.
big change here.
Right,
in
this is the
market.
capital gains. In Martin's edition, capital gains is a biggie.
Yep. And the reason,
Yeah.
we didn't have an income or a real property tax for the longest time, and then, 2007, 8 hit, and, market kind of tanked, and then, our income tax revenue went down, I believe, into the 300s versus, 600, 700 that we've been getting lately. And that's when we said, wow, we need to, establish a real property tax, and then since then, the market's recovered and we've been doing a lot better. But then you also have the Wynn decision. I don't know if you all have heard
Yeah,
about that.
that's something,
Do we have any, the last time I talked to you was maybe a May 20th or
We
June
have
20th
some more
conference
data.
call. We have more data.
on people, I don't know what the terminology is, people who have filed certain kinds of statements, income tax
Yep.
statements to recover.
Yep.
What are we
And
looking
it could go back to 2006 for the people that have filed for the protective, I think it's called protective rights. I did ask last week for, I had figures for 9, 10, 11. I didn't have 6, 7, or 8. And then they gave me 12 and 13. And so for the 5 years, and then they get interest, simple interest for every year. So if you're going back to 2009, and it was $22,900, then you get interest each year on that. So, I think
Is the 22,900 total for all 5 years?
No.
that's
No,
2009.
it's
That's 1 year.
Yep, and with the simple interest or compound interest, it's 27,193. 2010's 27,152. 2011's
You're basing these off
21,375.
of what, Dan?
Figures from the state
MML.
comptroller's
Oh,
revenue.
But these are
estimates.
people who've actually submitted claims for repayment or estimates on, if they submitted claims, this is what we'd be liable for?
Yes.
The latter, that if they submitted claims,
We would be
we
liable.
would be liable.
Yeah.
But they
Our
haven't
potential
necessarily.
liability.
Potential, but they haven't necessarily
Right.
Right. Okay,
submitted the
Right,
claim.
but
27, 21.
Yeah, I would anticipate, I mean, my ballpark figure would be somewhere between 150 and 200,000.
As a maximum potential
Return.
return.
Right, and they are supposed to have by the end of this year figures, so we should have figures for next year's budget. And then the amounts that they can come up with, I believe the first payment, if you're going to pay it back, starts in July of 2016,
We
and
could
you can
also
pay
choose
it
to
back
use a
under
lot.
over 9 quarters. So that's 2.25 years you could pay it over. So divide that 150, 200,000 by over 2 years,
So, but are you
or you
paying
could pay.
interest on it if you
It
don't
doesn't
have
keep accumulating, from my
But I'm wondering,
understanding. The comptroller will eat the rest of the interest.
Dan, have you seen any analyses of what the actual realization of this might be? Of what percentage
No, they don't. They don't have.
they're
that.
guessing?
This
All
is-
the,
We had 5
Yeah.
members of the council,
yeah,
and one said, I know all about this, and I am an effective party. So if we just look around the village department's edition and maybe guesstimate 20% of our folks will be engaged and involved somehow.
maybe. The question, how many is actually going to make the claim?
Right.
There's the gross liability. How much will be realized? I don't
Some
know.
of them already have, and
Taxpayers.
yeah.
I would guess the people who are involved in this program are seriously involved.
And people who have
It isn't
accountants.
$1.95
Right.
that they're talking
Right.
probably.
Okay.
I think they did emphasize there's going to be a lot of variability between municipalities.
So
Right.
how do we
And the
plan
smaller
or
the
not
municipality,
plan
the
for
more
that?
unpredictable.
For the next budget year, we'll have more definitive numbers.
Okay.
They said by the end of this year, we should have numbers that will give us plenty of time for the budget cycle. And, I think it's probably 150, 200,000. And if you spread that over 2.5 years, it's not too bad.
Or we could choose to just
Get
pay
rid
it
of
to
it. Yep, get it off
get
and
some of this.
surplus down.
Well, but to pay it,
Since
but
we're
then-
not making anything.
yeah,
off
but
of
if,
this
but
money
they have to,
anyway.
I mean, you can overpay if they don't.
No, but he's saying
Well,
after.
Well, once they
we-
calculate
once
the
they
liability
calculate
and
it.
say, here's your liability, now do you wanna opt for the nine
Okay.
quarter period, or do you
Oh,
wanna opt for the lump
okay.
sum
Okay. So they will have some real numbers.
by the
Yeah.
end of this year, is what they said.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, move on. Personal property tax.
Personal property taxes, you all passed the tax rate for personal property, and this is for business and utility personal property.
You're gonna get $14 from
The
each.
main amount comes from the utilities, Pepco, Verizon. You paid $14?
I think I'm gonna pay $14
Okay.
this year.
Yeah, so the larger portions of that come from the utilities for the most part.
So how come it's only $440 here? I'm sorry, am I looking at the wrong sheet?
No, it's to date. That's his
To 228, the very
Right.
top of the column.
fiscal year
Right, but that should be much larger percentage than the 6% of the full amount, no? Or is it that the personal property tax comes in some different month?
So where are you looking at?
No, this was the actual money that, when they did this budget, that had come into that date.
Oh, through January
Because
two
it's
thousand
only
fifteen.
like $100 a
Right,
month coming
February
in.
it says.
No, mine says
on
February,
ours.
yours says something different.
Because mine, if I look at this one, it was $100 a month till we got to here. Then it was a big
Yeah.
2,800. So depending on where we were
Yeah,
in
so
the
that
year.
that's must have been, that's just a one-time
Yeah.
large payment, okay.
Yep. Yeah, if you look on the detail here for
Mhm.
personal property, you could see we didn't get much until January.
Okay,
Came in, so it's based on when they file a personal property tax and pay for it.
I'll tell you when I pay mine. See the big check.
Okay, moving on.
The real
Utility property
Yep.
is the utilities.
Right, and that's the larger of the two.
I thought I would just, in holiday fund, do you know about holiday fund, which is where we collect money to give to the trash people? It's, sort of,
It's like a gift fund, so
gift fund.
whatever what we pay out is 100% of whatever we
Right,
collected.
so-
It's just a
If you look on the expense side, you see a expense figure under the general government other of 6,500, so it mirrors the revenue figure.
Okay.
interest
interest, how did we get
on our
that?
CDs.
That's our interest on our $2 million, so not much. Not a whole lot you can do with it.
Whenever Steve Small brings this
Okay.
up at a meeting, I said, Steve, you find a place that's 100% guaranteed, 250,000. I said, we'll follow you.
What's he getting on his CDs?
I don't know.
He doesn't have to be guaranteed.
Come on, let's move through this. We're
We've got all
not
this money in the bank.
Come on, we're gonna be here all night.
Expense.
Okay. Okay. Are we
Expense.
done with
Do we talk
revenues?
about other revenue?
What is in other?
It's $100, it's just if we get something else and we don't know what to do with it, you
Okay.
throw it in there.
Okay.
This says here insurance reimbursement. That was the.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, one time somebody ran over a tree and their insurance paid for it and went into here.
Okay.
So on the expenses, we have the general government. I think most of those are pretty self-explanatory. Office expense, and the thing I find most helpful is if you look at the detailed general ledger and
Yeah.
you go through and it gives a description of what's included in there: refreshments for meetings, office cleaning, copier contract. Backup support for the computers.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that's going down is
Office
meeting
supplies.
refreshment account.
Yeah.
Deer Park for
Would
the
you like that
water.
to go in the other direction?
No.
Oh.
All the people who came in for sandwiches no longer come.
But the water is good.
There you go. So fees for the payroll service, so those types of items that you look to and see in the memo section.
And I think, again, once we get the credit card in place, however much we can throw onto the credit card versus, because that will save everybody.
But then are we gonna have trouble actually reconciling our numbers? Because we'll have credit card receipts and it's gonna be a different report?
That's
Or
true.
is
How
it
do
gonna
you
feed
do
into
that?
this?
It all shows up here, like under office and equipment on here. Where is it? Office and equipment. It says United Bank, but it gives you the description of what it is, and it's costed under office furniture and equipment. So everything that shows up on the credit card gets charged to one of your expense accounts. And I break out each expense individually. So even though we charged on United Bank, we charged to Dell and we bought new computers. So
Okay,
everything.
so we don't lose that information.
No.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. The insurance is both our general primary insurance through local government insurance trust and workers' comp insurance through Chesapeake Employers Insurance Fund.
And the bulk of that is for the police officers.
Yep, for the police legal liability. Public, what do they call it?
Why is there,
Legal liability.
why did it go up by 5,000 between 15 and 16?
Because of the police
Police.
officers.
Yep,
We didn't
It's
cover
based
them
on
before?
salary.
we didn't have them before.
We just started.
We started in July of 14.
Yeah.
Didn't you give them a raise?
And then
That's-
they went up $10 an hour this year also from 45 to 55 an hour.
But that was not included in the proposed budget,
Yes,
correct?
it was.
It was?
Yep, I got it somewhere
I
in my
thought that was
notes.
something we told you about.
Nope,
Okay,
I know about it then.
thank you.
Do we have a new contract with Rico, the copier, or
I don't
we
think
still
so.
operating
It's
in
not
the same
new,
way?
It's,
But we still pay them $160 a month.
The copier works?
Depends on the day.
But Tori and Devin have sung to it before.
Okay.
like
I
best-
keep seeing Rico showing up in these
yes,
accounts.
yes, we're like besties with
The
Steve.
printing and
Kramer.
mailing is the postage and newsletter costs,
Yeah,
Where's that?
right under the
504.
insurance,
5040 printing and mailing.
10,000. Dues
that
of-
gets to the discussion about whether to, yeah.
Yeah.
how many
Send it,
additions you
send
have
it out,
and-
right, and whether to send it out through Constant Contact instead
No,
of.
I think printed, we have to have printing. I know, I don't read it on computer.
But I think it's
Like
it's
to
worth,
read it
that's
in the
whether
Okay,
to
so
do it
I
one
don't think
way.
that's a discussion
Yeah,
for
but not right
this.
now,
Yes.
right.
But I do
Just
think
to
it's
bring it
worth
up.
noting, there's
Yeah.
certain items which we can't really change much, and there's certain which we potentially could.
Right.
That's an example of
Okay.
a line item which
And
could be.
a survey is referencing that. Like, do you
Yeah.
want to? How do you want to receive it? I think that will give us
Right.
something to talk about when we get feedback. Okay.
Storage rental.
You found due subscription and conference? Those
Yeah.
are professional organizations and conferences.
Princess Royale,
Boondoggle, I
MMO.
know.
What are we
City.
talking about?
boondoggle.
The one above dues and
Page
subscriptions.
9, page 9.
Page 9 of this report gives the details as to what was.
I tell you what, they
Paid out,
keep me
yeah.
busy at that. I thought it was really good.
Mhm.
It was very well run. It was very well run.
Mm-hmm.
So there's clerk's dues, there's ICMA membership, there's
MML.
Montgomery County Municipal League memberships, MML conference. You got a spring and a fall or summer and fall conferences. So that's all included in there. The extra space or storage rental is all for the extra space storage unit.
Do we still have that? Do we still need it?
We do
That's-
have it.
Whether we need it or not depends in part on whether we have extra recycling bins that we need to store. I don't understand why the proposed is higher than the 2015 actual though. And
It
the
was talked about
2014
maybe
actual.
needing more. I have here
The storage
2
unit
units.
is not anywhere near full. There's
Right.
No reason we would need.
Yeah, in my notes from when we put the budget together, it says for 2 units.
But we were,
Oh.
there was
Are people
discussion,
able to get extra recycling bins?
Well, I think the way it worked is we would order them and there's sort of minimum numbers
that's right, there were
of
minimum numbers.
toters that
Oh,
you can.
if I'd have asked
So you order the 50 at a time or 100 at a time, they stamp them all with a Village of Martin's dish, and then we distribute them all, but there's maybe 20 extra.
Right.
The 20,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe there was more than that at some point,
There-
sat in
yeah.
there, and then it dwindles down. There's also.
There's a lot of room in there.
And then there was a question about ordering, some people have desire bigger ones. Big families, this stuff
Tori's
just
survey.
piles up and.
That's the
Yep, I
next
know a
iteration
family like
of
that.
survey.
However, so what we don't have, well,
Wow.
is ordering more of those. We maybe have too much money for storage rental, but maybe not enough for ordering more recycling.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
so
we
if
have
you're
to,
running out of, but if then you have extra ones.
Well, there's
you-
5,000 for recycling bins in the
What's
budget.
that?
5,000.
Bins, like-
Oh.
The blue bins or
No,
like,
Like the big
brown
one, the
ones,
wheelie
big brown
ones.
depending on how much, I mean, there's tons of space in that storage unit, but not for
Right.
50s.
yeah,
Right.
Okay,
okay.
office lease, self-explanatory.
Includes the office lease, plus it also includes the insurance, taxes that we pay to Shirazi, because we pay, as part of the lease agreement, we pay part of pro rata share of taxes and insurance.
And there's an escalation also in the office rental, as I
Yeah, and
remember.
I think it is March of 2016, I think it goes up. the next increase.
We should be able to negotiate that, shouldn't we?
Well, do you all,
No, it's too late. I mean, it's part of the initial.
The initial
lease.
agreement, yeah.
And so unless you're willing
When,
to.
when does it end?
The lease itself, I can't remember.
Okay. Telephone,
Telephone is the office phone, and it was cell phone for we were reimbursing the village manager for personal cell phone calls, a certain percentage. Holiday fund, we already went over, that's the offsetting account from the revenue, so they equal. The managerial and office salaries, the village manager and assistant manager. And then the payroll taxes and benefits, or the payroll tax and benefits associated with those positions.
Does that also include the police officers?
No.
Okay. But they're employees, aren't they?
They're under 5240.
They're contractual employees under 5240.
So that what it costs for the police is under 5240 plus the insurance and 5030. A big chunk of 5030 was police as well.
What's 503?
The insurance.
So how come the
That's
cost?
Oh, right.
So how come the cost for the police is going down if we're raised there?
That's been a good question. I don't know either.
Going down from where?
45 to 36.
But see, I think
Is
what's
this
going on.
5240?
Where are you seeing the 45?
Fiscal year 15 annual budget versus 16 annual budget.
I was
Oh,
going to
you're down
ask
to
you about
police, I'm
this
sorry.
because
yeah. that
because
was
the
an
insurance went
estimate.
up though. So I was wondering if part of the costs got like the workers' comp was appearing there and now it appears here, or
I don't think so.
Yeah.
If we skip to building enforcement, go to police.
The 45,000,
just
as I
the payroll
recall, was a
taxes
early
included in there.
estimate of what, it was a kind of a guess of what we thought that might cost.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And we were guessing conservatively.
Exactly.
We
But,
did run the program for all of last year, but we will run it for all of
Yeah,
this year.
and that's the other thing, it only started.
But it's going
in
down.
mid-year.
I know, that's why,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we gave them a raise.
Right.
Yeah, so what we have budgeted now is $55 an hour, 25 hours a month per officer for 12 months, times 2 officers plus payroll taxes, comes to 35,524.50, and we rounded up 36.
We have real numbers.
$55 an hour for
25 hours a month, times 12 months, times 2 officers. And then you take that total and multiply 7.65% for payroll taxes, you get 35,524.
Which is interesting because it's different from.
I thought
it was 5 hours a week per officer.
I agree with Katja. I thought it was
Right.
20 hours a month, not 25.
Or it could be a 22 because if there is
Well,
a month.
correct.
I've
right?
got 2 calculations here. One was 55 hours times 20 hours times 12, and another 55 times 25 times 12 when we met for the budget, and then the council was supposed to discuss which way you're going further. But the 36,000 went into the budget, which would be the 25 hours. So.
Okay, so that's probably generous.
And we should go back and listen to what that was, what the outcome of that was.
Yeah, and then it gives you either cut it back next year if you only need them 5 a week.
Well,
or
we also were talking about increasing the hours, but they don't really have the time, so,
The point is that
Yeah.
even though we're paying them more and it's
Yeah.
going down, it's probably pretty accurate or
Yeah.
even more than enough.
Yeah.
I think that's the point, right?
And I mean, this took it by month. If you if you average it out, it's 5.76 hours a week is what's budgeted. So it's really 6 hours per officer, because it's 25 for 12 months versus 25 or 5 a week. So it's,
Yeah. So it's more than enough is what I'm trying to
Yes.
say, yeah.
Yep. So you could.
Okay. So which account are we up to now?
We're done with left side.
We skipped over building permit and accounting and auditing. Does anyone have any questions on those?
I think
You're the line. for
we're gonna
county
find the building review line
I'm
is
not all
too
of that.
low this year,
you
right?
can see there's 5,000.
What's the-
5,500 for the audit.
For the auditor.
It's actually 6,000 for the audit and 29 for me for 35 total.
Okay.
And then the building and permitting, it's broken out. You're gonna give me what the new breakout is. Legal,
Can you tell, the 20,000 for building review, how many hours did that represent? Do you know?
I really don't.
Those
Okay.
were just sort of guessed at numbers, I would guess.
I mean, that was done long before we knew Alan was gonna leave. But I was just curious.
It was based on kind of how much activity there was, how many houses.
But he
how much
often didn't
construction
bill, is that
projects.
correct?
Well, we always, by the end of the year, we would always get all of his bills.
Oh,
for him.
okay.
We
All
always
right. I
had,
wasn't sure about that.
This year is just really crazy.
But there was also, last year was very active, a lot of activity, a lot of
Okay.
construction activity that
Alright.
seems to have peaked and is coming down.
But we're gonna have a learning curve bubble this year.
Yes.
Yeah, building permitting. We're doing a lot of legal stuff right now because we're going through
the code,
the charters.
charter.
Right, and,
A lot of the, we were gonna do this, we are doing.
right, and we were redoing contracts and, so legal is not probably over budgeted.
Although the lawyer is now charging less.
Right, $5.
$5?
$20,
20,
$2.95 an hour versus $3.15.
Okay, so legal, police, we did lighting consultant.
We have to get back to lighting, the to-do
Yes.
list.
Maybe later. The records retention we can get rid of.
I wanna bring up traffic engineering for a moment,
Oh, yeah.
because
Joe Crusoe, yeah.
it was
Not
3,000 in fiscal year 2015. 3,000 in 2016. However, Joe Cutro told me that he and Jean had discussed, and I guess it was discussed at the minutes for April, talk about this, some kind of sign review.
I thought he did that. Didn't he do that?
He said he hasn't started it yet, and
Oh.
he said he could do it starting in September, and it was the first I'd heard of this. So
Oh.
anyway, I have I put it into the contracts book if anybody wants to look at it.
Oh, huh.
But I suspect it's not in the budget because it's about $10,000.
Yeah.
And that's, I just wanted to bring that up about traffic engineering.
Yeah.
Unless
What
it's under
account is
street
that?
maintenance. You see,
5244.
because I came across an email from you
Oh,
this
here's-
is years before, that sometimes street-related things show up in street maintenance and sometimes in
And
traffic
Joe
engineering.
Cutro
And
shows
Joe
up there a lot.
Cutro's bills might be in street maintenance sometimes. So I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so, for fiscal year 15, the only thing on the lighting consultant is Scott M. Watson for $6,600.
No, but he's talking about street maintenance.
Well, the
53.
lighting consultant was Watson. Under street maintenance is where Cutro's bills all went to last
Oh.
year. Because his bills say traffic engineering and street design, traffic engineering, street design. So to me, that was street maintenance.
So what comes under traffic engineering then? What's the 3,000 for?
Professional fee.
Where
We should-
account is that? I don't see that.
Does
50
anybody have any objections? I mean, we have.
To eliminating
do-
that category.
Well, no, I would leave the category,
Here's
but
street
pull his
maintenance.
stuff out of street
Oh,
maintenance.
traffic
and put it
engineering,
back
right.
into the professional
Professional.
services for traffic engineering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Toward the year.
Yeah, I think that's where it should go.
I guess, I'm still a little unclear what it's all being used for, so I'm not opposed to that concept,
But if we have multiple people feeding into the same number here and they're doing different work, then it's confusing. The fact that it's a street
Well, but
maintenance.
some of them are filling potholes, but Joe Cutro is not filling potholes.
no, but he also might, then there's, Vergis does the sign installation sometimes, which would
Oh.
also be under street maintenance.
I'm
So
in my brain, it's almost a like
He's
professional
a-
consultant.
Right, and
Yes.
that's where he ought to, his
Doer.
fees ought to be charged as a professional
Yeah,
consultant.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And move them all to traffic engineering.
So Dan needs us to make a motion at our next meeting to,
Whatever figure
do
you think.
that.
Got
that's
it.
gonna
Well,
come
there's
to.
a whole bunch of things from Joe. What's the last thing from Joe here? June 18th. That's where I thought he was reviewing the signs. But,
June 18th.
Hopefully we have an itemized invoice that we can take a look at and
The 18th is what?
June
June-
18th was
June's
someone's
last
last
day.
day, so I doubt he was doing that.
we'll have to find out.
Well,
Yeah.
what do is invoices just say June traffic engineering and street design, is
Yeah.
that, so we,
What, June? I can go find it.
I mean, he might have more written out on there. I
Right.
mean, I had to put, brief
Sure.
description.
right, June 18th.
So Dan, this is another thing that we're having to, like I mentioned earlier, very specific, connecting all of the dots so that
Right.
we can answer the questions a little bit more.
Yep.
Which I think is good also, Tori and Kutcha just coming in new, it's good.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
What's the check number?
Is this the check number
Those are
here?
invoice numbers.
1516.
that isn't the check number.
What is that?
Those are invoice number,
Oh,
his
that's an
invoice
invoice number.
numbers, 15, 16, but it would have been paid in June. So,
While she's looking at that.
Right, let's go ahead.
Uh,
But we agree that we're going to
Yeah,
move the
yeah,
Joe Kutro
To a professional,
to the, under the
54,
legal, right,
52,
professional
44.
fees.
right.
Right. And we'll reallocate budget, as the,
Dan, is it you that could tell us how much that would be for our budget amendment?
well, she's got a $10,000 contract, right? Is that what you're talking about? So,
That plus anything else that.
well,
we
nothing's
would've-
been costed there so far this year. If he's done work there, I've not seen invoices for it.
Did we estimate that he would do any work in the budget?
well,
I don't have
Pass
his
that to
name
Tiffany.
particularly.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, while you're looking at that,
okay, then let's
snow
go.
removal. That depends on how much snow we.
Right, yeah, that one, there's no place to
You
go.
found it?
Yep, it says traffic sign repairs and improvements, 6 locations, planning, acquisition of materials, supervision of work, summary. So he fixed 6 street signs.
Yeah, I remember.
So
That's-
maybe that was part of that, I'll have to
Street
ask.
maintenance,
Well, it was only $512. So
right.
I assume that's what
my
probably ones
highlights,
he,
by
like,
the way.
found broken ones instead
Yeah,
of
there were things that had
studying all
fallen
of them.
off. They were
Right.
on the-
Yeah, so there
Yeah.
was one that was
Right
off
across
on
the
Raymond
street
Street.
from you.
Exactly.
right, the one that was on the light post instead
Yeah.
of.
Yes,
I saw
and that was the
minutes.
one that was
Yeah.
replaced in June.
Right.
After
So that this
a
was
year.
probably those.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we know,
We're-
we'll figure out how much we're gonna
okay.
move from Dan out of the street maintenance into the traffic engineering. We have to make a decision about whether or not we wanna do that comprehensive review for $10,000-ish.
And then make sure you still have enough, whatever else you're doing on the street maintenance, other when you take it out, because if you're putting 10 out, it's 30, still enough to do what you
Yeah.
want to do on the street maintenance of it.
Okay.
thank you, Devin. So,
Okay.
so that did not, I thought that was the big review, but I guess it
I guess
wasn't.
it hasn't happened.
No,
I understood from Joe it hadn't, but I will
Okay,
verify
okay.
that maybe some of it happened,
Yeah.
not all of
Okay,
it.
so records retention, can we
get rid of that.
zero that out? How do you, I mean,
That's been there
I
forever.
think so, thanks to Devin.
Miss Garcia is not gonna be joining us, alright, so
What number is that? Where are we?
That was 5246.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, we didn't have anything budgeted
No, we
last
never
year
did
for
anything,
it.
no.
This is the
Okay.
first year we budgeted.
It was always a kind of a
No, we had-
Oh, no, we
placeholder.
had it
budgeted
the
last
year
year, we didn't
yes.
use it, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Waste collection. I mean, that's,
street lighting.
That's very
where are you?
straightforward, because it's a regular contract
right.
bill.
Leaf bags, God. Well, I just don't quite want to touch that one tonight. And recycling bins. Moving on, tree maintenance. Does anybody want to talk about leaf bags?
Oh,
I have an idea.
She's
Okay.
a fantastic
What?
idea, actually. So if you
I
want to
even have a
time out.
prop.
hey, Ted Stoddard is ailing?
I happened to be in Target yesterday,
Yeah,
and I bought this for myself. 20 bags, nice high quality, heavy paper, prepackaged in 20, $9.99. I order it online, and I buy 60, I get free shipping. So I could buy a gift for each of my best friends in Village Martin's Editions of delivered to their door for free from Target.
Yay!
What size are they? What size are they? Are they,
They're the same size.
are the same size as what we have?
I don't believe it. Yeah.
Do you realize today, like free shipping?
Well, I find this
30
I find this very amusing because the 10 years I've been here and we spend $10,000 a year on the bags. I said, why don't we go to Sam's Club? 10 years ago, I started this. Why don't we go to Sam's Club and buy the bags? They don't have bags like the ones we get from
30 gallons, the
Leonardo's.
same size.
They are the
Is
they
it
are the
30?
best.
Is it
You
the
can't
same
get
size?
that type
And
from.
how
many
much,
bags
from
how
do you
much
get per
would this
house?
cost?
It'll
It
cost.
depends.
How many houses do you
They
have?
got boxes of 60, some 30.
Times 300
And that's 50.
households.
That's 20.
That's
So it
20.
goes to
Package,
what?
so I could, free shipping if I spend at least $25. So if I were to buy 3 packs, that's 60 per house, which is in some years what you've given.
No, wait, that's 30 per house.
That's
Bags.
3.
This is
that's
$30 per
that's-
house.
That's 20 bags right there.
20.
If I,
Yes, I'm
Right.
just doing the math of how much
Yeah.
that would cost.
$30 per house. basically.
Yes.
I can do. I
So
will.
that's
I'll do a whole
$1,000.
spreadsheet for you guys
And
if you
we
want.
don't have to deliver,
Yes.
we don't have to
300
worry
houses.
about this.
Storage.
And it'll be less than that because we have a
No
whole list
storage,
of
no
people
insurance, no.
There are people out there who are going to go broke. who are not going to have money for Christmas.
But who,
Target will have more.
No,
than
that's
that.
$9,000.
It all comes out.
Oh no,
more.
this is the best idea
who
ever.
did, who supplied them before?
Leonardo's.
Leonardo's, but
Laniatos.
Right,
or
say it.
whatever. But it,
So we're
it
saving
seems to me
$1,000
that we paid $200
I don't know
for the
exactly.
bags,
But that's
but we
How many
paid
houses?
$12,000
Because
for
we-
them to be
300
delivered.
The problem was they would come and then we would have to repackage them, right?
Well.
Either you deliver a box or you repackage them and then we would deliver them to each person's house. I'm saying that the cost of delivery plus the cost of repackaging is eliminated because you have free delivery from Target.
And you save $1,000 on top of that.
And the bags
And you're
themselves are
saving
cheaper because the
all
bags
the
used to be
labor costs.
the bags used to be 75 cents a bag and those were 50 cents a bag.
So you're looking at about $9,000.
Savings.
No, that's what it is. It's
Okay.
Total
$9,000
$9,000 it's going to
versus
cost
Yeah, it's
us.
about
$12,000.
$9,000.
And no,
Yeah,
well,
versus
except
10.
for punching in the,
Well,
the
Towards
order.
labor.
And we don't have to rent a truck to go around and deliver them
Right.
and.
Nope.
Where,
I will have to enter, please deliver bags to my friend on 108 Quincy. Please deliver bags to my friend on 109 Quincy.
You know what, I bet.
You have so
now,
many friends.
Tori,
But-
I bet Target customer service might even be able to
Oh.
help you
Oh,
out with
maybe.
If you
that.
call them and you're like, I'm going to send you a list.
I'm gonna fax you a list
That's,
of,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, that is
if they're right
awesome.
next door to each other, they just go down and do
I
what
hope it
Wayne
works.
was doing.
okay.
Okay.
I'm so
I
glad
am
we
so, my God, this is so incredible. This is, you
Okay.
have no idea.
Next.
This
What's
just
the
made
next
everybody's
thing?
Monday night.
Recycling bins.
Recycling.
There's
I think we
5,000.
might need to order more, honestly. But I don't know. I mean, that's another topic, but I do think we might need to order some more because
Call
I
up
don't,
Kmart again or whoever.
I don't
Go to
believe we
Walmart.
have any more in, or maybe only one
there's a
left.
couple in storage.
And I
There's
think
like 2.
the
small
question
ones.
is
No,
what's the
big
minimum
ones,
order?
not small.
Okay.
Do we have to order a minimum of 100 or a
We do.
minimum of
Well,
50?
the last Jean looked, she said that you didn't have to order by
Oh,
the
that's a big
50s
Perfect. That would
anymore.
be great.
The
Though.
biggest thing I can get.
Do you just want a
Well, and
second
I think,
one?
I mean, Tori,
Yeah,
if it's gonna
I do.
cost us X amount to store
An
them and we're
amount
only
of
saving that
recyclables.
and.
Tiffany, take it
Yes.
from me.
Yes, yes, I'm with you. Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
That's my notes so I don't forget.
Okay.
Okay. Where are we?
Tree maintenance.
Trees. That kind of comes out to be what it is. I mean,
Well, yeah, I don't know that.
Kind of like snow.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Trees
And-
Is that
die,
all-
they
now,
have to
is
be
that all
replaced.
one- Is that all good integrated plant?
Yes.
Yep. And
Unless, wait, isn't there a backup?
No.
There wasn't last year? Okay. There's a, in the contact, there's a
Peyton,
backup
did
person.
Peyton do it? Did he do
No,
that?
no, no.
Payne
no.
usually does the snow removal, right?
Right. I think Paul does both tree maintenance and tree replacement.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah,
he-
he puts them in and then he takes care of them.
Right,
And he also trims and,
right. And the tree replacement is, you know, that is a budget item we control.
Can I, sorry,
Yeah.
snow removal, snow plowing, so that we don't run into the emergency this year, the RFPs to go out, if you guys will take a look, so we can get that done. We did check with Rolling Acres, they do provide street cleaning as well as snow removal service, so apparently that's common. So if we put out that for bid, which we need to do, given its size, we will come up with whatever bidders we need to make a decision, so we don't run into the night before the snowstorm. So you guys have an RFP that you have to look for that. Sorry to go backwards.
let me say on trees, I'd like to have a tree discussion in September on the tree committee report, where we did have in last year tentatively a budget to subsidize private trees. I'd like to have the council consider that,
As part of the, that was the recommendation from the tree committee?
yeah. But, I'd like to have a community involvement first before moving on that.
Everybody agree?
Okay. It will be on the agenda for September.
Yeah,
If
I think,
somebody remembers it.
yeah,
Sorry.
let's,
That and the streetlights have to be on the agenda.
Right.
yeah,
Okay, are we down to right-of-way maintenance, which is what we're sending out RFP on, as I understand
Yes,
it?
so we have another,
Oh, and I'm supposed to call Bernice.
yes.
Okay.
And we should try and get Shirazi to give us a, if we start maintaining the beds out here, that they should give us a break on our bills.
Forget that.
Tori,
I
while
can
you were
tell you.
gone, we learned, and I spent some time with Paul Weller, I can go into more detail later, there's a history of like 5 or 6 places in the village that are constantly needing right-of-way landscaping and lawn care maintenance.
Okay.
And as we went through historic bills, they come from different places at different times, so we discussed just putting them all into one.
Okay.
And we're gonna make your job so much easier, we just gonna.
Cool.
Okay, community events, that's up for grabs.
Does this 25,000, is that higher in order to cover the centennial event? Or
which is the
was that
community?
expressly discussed as
I think
an
it's,
amount to cover the,
would be my guess.
Same thing we had last year.
Yeah.
We basically had 3 events last year,
Yeah.
which is Halloween, the annual, the 60, no, not,
The group feed
The
and
anniversary.
LaFair.
yep.
And do we have a Fourth of
And then-
July?
No, the sidewalk election on the sidewalk thing. But 25 is probably way too much unless y'all do them.
well, it's a centennial.
Well, we have
Yes,
to
it is
say,
something.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it might
Would you want
actually
to
be
throw
too
a big
little.
party?
Depends what you all wanna do.
Website. Sower, is that a, okay,
But no, I mean, it is what it is. You get what you pay for. We did get a presentation a couple years ago from someone who did, I forget what other municipality around here, but it was like a lot more. It was like $17,000 a year or something.
Well, so we have a couple of web designers in the village now, which I think they might be good resources if we could beg a little bit of just their time as, take a look and let us know what we could do. There were also 2 companies, I think, at MML
Yeah,
that are doing this for a lot of other,
it was one of
Yeah.
those kinds of
So-
companies that came by.
yeah,
we should see what.
So it was 17,000 to redo the website, or 17,000 a year to maintain it?
We only
It
got
was,
2,000.
it did include redoing it. I mean, it was this company does it for like the city of Austin. You know, really large cities
Is
that have
Mission
very
72.
complicated, people do online,
Submissions?
fee payments and all kinds of things, or reserving rec buildings, all kinds of stuff can be done on websites. A lot of them are kind of, designed for much more complicated municipalities.
I mean, Tacoma
But
Park
there
was
is
a-
But they're
Nothing that-
costly, and then because of that, and there's sort of unused capacity that if we were to buy
Right.
that.
But there is no reason that we can't put out again, a request for proposals, because as I understand it, that for the time you were away, that it was very difficult to get a hold of these people.
And things are disappearing off of them, which is, your time's too valuable, our time's too valuable to be having to replace them.
So
We
you
got,
need
we're
to
getting
find
a
somebody,
seconding of that.
you need to find somebody who can keep, well, I think keep what you have. You have a good design, like the design's there. You don't need to reinvent the
We
wheel.
did just design it.
Right, so I think you find somebody that can just
Take it over.
take it over and
so
help
intuitive. I can
you
never
and
find
help
anything
that
on it.
IT
Yeah, I don't
Help
think
and-
it is that good.
Yeah.
do exactly what you need them to do.
If you looked at Chevy Chase Views, their design somehow feels so easy to use. One day when I went into it, and I think ours is really complicated. Do you not think it's complicated?
I think that it's, in my opinion, it's the way the menu tabs are designed.
Right.
Okay, that
See,
make
and-
it
and
the
hard.
so-
website's really good, the view's really good, because it's got the quick links at the bottom, that, where are you going the most? You're going to building construction and council meetings and the calendar. This is a really good website.
But how we
Yeah.
redesign our menu tabs doesn't require it.
No, and they've
The-
got menu tabs too, like,
Right.
for a city like this, you're gonna have menu tabs, like.
Yeah, no, I mean, what Brian Rains said is that people approach websites in different ways, and whether you might approach it one way and I approach another way, it's fine
Right.
to build in redundancy, because
Right.
it seemed easy to you because you went in this way, and it seemed easy to me because I went in that way, and that's fine to build in the redundancy, so I think Brian gets that, and I feel like there's this potential there, but we're not, it's not, he's not responsive right now, and I don't know what's up with that.
Okay.
Is it one person? I mean, how big
Kind
is
of,
it?
I think it's
It's-
kind of a
I think
one-man
it's one
show.
person.
Mm,
And I think design is one issue, but if we're spending so much time on maintenance, it's worth.
yeah,
Yep.
Okay,
okay,
those are separate decisions from,
okay, that's it?
So the big items here,
No, but I think designated streets, sidewalks, street
Right.
lighting.
I mean, fill me in. This 500,000 is for designated street lighting is to replace
Every street light,
that everywhere?
yeah,
No.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Total revamp of all the street lights.
not
Well,
this
But not the
particular
posts.
ones.
Not the
Yeah.
posts. Are we talking about just the light bulbs?
No, well, they have to be
They
the
have to
whole.
put
Talking
new
about the whole-
arms.
Our-
Arthur, I
Yeah.
don't recall seeing you may have seen it, an estimate that shows exactly.
never
No,
got
no,
an
no, no,
estimate.
no, no.
There
This
was
is
never an estimate.
out of the
Right.
So we
air.
have to.
Yeah. This is money we're just throwing into a
So I would
pile.
say streets, sidewalks, and street lighting,
Yeah.
there's a lot more,
Is
research.
There's no there's no real grounds for
No,
those
right.
numbers.
Is this
Exactly.
street based on the idea of repaving them all?
In some instances, they would be repaved.
Wasn't
But
there-
it mostly was a way to buy down the reserves, so we don't look like we have so much money
Yeah, Devin, what do you think?
undesignated.
There was in the April
So they
minutes,
just,
Yeah.
it's,
And they
talked
did,
about there were specific
put new
proposals.
pipes in on
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many
Yeah.
streets that
Yeah.
a lot of them
that was
need
just
it.
for this.
and we do have some areas that are some priorities, like Quincy and Oxford are a mess.
Yeah,
And, we really need to think about trying to fix those, I think, sooner rather than
that's
later.
what I
That might
think.
not, I mean, 500 paving streets is a big deal.
Yeah, well,
Well,
So
it
that's
might
what,
be very
again, we got a few things, we'll figure out how to support you and get some of
Yeah.
those folks in here and just say, give me the option
Right.
A, B, and C,
Yep.
And I have watched it over next to BCC, and it is an ugly,
Yes,
ugly
it's,
process.
yes.
well, it depends on what you're gonna
Brace
do.
yourselves. It doesn't matter,
Yeah, it's,
because you got no parking on the
Oh, yeah.
streets, then you got huge equipment coming through, and if they're digging down 8 inches, or if they're just going over the top,
Mm-hmm.
there's still a day or day and a half where you've got no parking and no driving through.
day or day and a half. I was telling Richard, it's become a joke on my street.
Yeah.
Starting in end of May,
Yeah.
there was a little sign, no parking from May 30th to June 5th. And that sign has been replaced
Yeah.
every week and you can go to my house right now, and it says no parking from August 24th to August,
Yeah.
and they're not done.
Are
That's
they
gonna
working? They're actually working?
Well, actually, I hope it did.